spotted Dave on the sideline Easter Monday. He was just had his footy head on, business-like, just stalking the sideline.
He owns it, doesn't he?
I tried to trip him, but actually almost took Lara Pitt down, which could have been a catastrophe. But David evaded the trip and on he marched, business head down.
Yes.
Great game. Before we get into any news, it was an action-packed afternoon, wasn't it?
Oh, at Combank Stadium, Parramatta versus the West Tigers. It was, Brandy. Good morning, boys. It was a cracker. It had everything.
Yep.
And the influence of Mitchell Moses, it really is elite level stuff, isn't it? Like he just shows he's now got that serious influence of a champion player. That's what he was. Like he dramatically changed everything about Parramatta, and I'm talking about the performances of his teammates.
Yep.
They went to another level around him, and he was sensational. They've got a bye now, boys, the Eels. So Mitch just comes back, plays almost a 9 to 10 out of 10 performance, takes a week off, and then they play the Sharks in Magic Round next Friday night. So, Parramatta, for everything that started so questionable with Mitch back, and, we saw the way Dylan Brown operated with Mitch. Maybe there's a little bit of hope for this season still to come.
I love it when the big games played in front of big crowds and big broadcast audiences deliver, and that happened last round. It happened Tigers against Eels. It happened Dogs against South Sydney. I know it was one-sided, but there was some great footy played. And this week will be no different. Anzac Day, Dave, 3 games. Roosters, Dragons,
cracker.
Warriors, Knights into Storm, Rabbitohs. But can I take you to the final game of the round at Leichhardt? West Tigers against Cronulla. I know you've been heavily involved in the Lachie Galvin story. It continues to develop. There continues to be twists and turns. What's the latest of interest to you on that front?
Yeah, certainly, boys, his selection and return to first grade is of mass interest. And that's, I'd be really eager to get your response, because for me, I don't know. I find it slightly confusing. I do find it confusing, not slightly, how you go from 1 week not having the trust of your teammates, being demoted to New South Wales Cup, of which I said to you guys last week I never understood in the first place, and now being recalled to first grade. And my other counter to that, boys, is the Leichhardt Oval factor. Now, for everything that's happened in the past 2 weeks, 10 days, running out onto Leichhardt Oval on a Sunday afternoon, I'm really fascinated to see what the response of the West Tigers fans are, and I think it'll only be on the plea of what we see today from West Tigers CEO Shane Richardson in his interview with Brent Reid about showing Lachlan Galvin respect, and I would think Benji Marshall's forthcoming press conference prior to the match will also go down a similar path, because I just find the return match at Leichhardt Oval an interesting place. If it was somewhere else, guys, I could sort of understand it, but it's going to be full on. Like the intensity and reception for Lachie Galvin will be. I don't know which way it'll go. It's either going to be boos or it's going to be cheers. I don't know.
Well, a win will help. Some good footy will help from the Tigers. That'll help the situation, no doubt. I don't find it, and we spoke about it yesterday, Dave. I don't find it that strange. The players were pissed off with the fact that he had a crack at Benji. Now, they get over those sort of things pretty quickly, I think. I don't think they've lost trust in him.
When you're losing.
Yeah, well, yeah. But I think grown men, rugby league players can get over things pretty quickly. They don't... It's not all, buddy with everyone anyway. Best to... No. It's not... They might be tight and respect each other. They don't have to be best friends. But I think there is some respect there. And I was hoping that this happened, that it came to a head and they went, well, okay, well, let's go in and we're men. Lockie's 19, but he's a man. We're all men. Let's get over it. We need to be doing the best for our club and best for our team. Let's just play footy.
Brandy, I'm with Dave. I thought
That
once he
being-
went for 1
that
week,
being
I know.
said, Brandy,
I thought he'd go for a few weeks.
Yeah.
So I'm with you, Dave. And you read your story written in conjunction with Brent Reid and Buzz Rothfield this morning. 4 words said by Benji to Lachie Galvin when he recalled him: we need to win. Well, fans will say we needed to win last week as well.
Last
What's the
week,
difference?
yeah.
Well, last week,
Yeah.
no, I think last week was too emotional. Like when you got senior
Yeah.
players putting things on social media, cryptic messages about what's happened, and this is. I think it was a powder keg last week, and they were the players were dirty
But
about
it's been
the
soothed
crack.
over enough now for him to come back in a week later.
Well, I'd like to think that everyone can move past some things. And while they were pissed off with him about what he said about Benji, they get over that pretty quickly. Okay, we're playing footy again. Let's go.
Yeah, look, I hear you, Brandy, and I get where you're coming from. But when is getting on with things good enough? And what I mean by that is if you take the Bulldogs as a comparison and the chemistry, the connection, the harmony within that playing group and the way they're playing together, I don't know how you could say the same thing about the West Tigers and the relationship between Jerome Luai and Lachlan Galvin. How's that connection going to be on Sunday?
Well, let's wait and see. Let's see.
It might be your case, what you're saying, where they just block it out for 80 minutes.
He's a pretty smart. Jerome's a smart guy. Like he's I think he's got some emotional intelligence as well, and Jerome knows what's best for the team. He's not going to allow whether he's a little bit cranky because Lachie bagged the coach. I think they get over that. Move on. Move on.
You know one area I reckon where we will all agree? We watch every game every weekend, but if someone was 50-50, do I watch the Tigers play the Sharks on Sunday? Don't know. Got some other commitments. I reckon they're watching. They're watching now. They'll want to see what happens when he runs on. They'll want to see how he plays. They'll want to see the next chapter in this story, Dave. Unless you've got anything else there, we'll park that and go to Jamal Fogarty in Canberra, Brandy, because the Raiders offered a new 2-year deal.
They upped it from a year to 2.
Yep.
But now Manly have countered that, have they, Dave?
They have it. Well, they're preparing to.
Yeah.
They're preparing to go to the 3 years now. Really interesting, and I think the Raiders. I don't think the Raiders counter that. I think they stand on their digs at 2 years.
I agree.
In the belief that they know. Look, ultimately, we said this from the start. Jamal would prefer to stay with the Green Machine. He'd prefer to stay in their current system and keep working with under Ricky Stewart in this environment that he's already in. Players tend to want to do that. They tend to want to stay at the current club they're in rather than making a big move. That's the case for Fogarty. However, when it gets to 3 years, it becomes certainly appealing from Fogarty's being able to secure his future. And I just from my conversations, I'd be stunned if they counter the 3 years of Manly, and I still think they're a big chance, Canberra. I really do. From everything I've been asking and the questions I've been asked from both clubs on what Jamal was hoping for, I think the Raiders have come to the party. So, time will tell, but I don't think Raiders fans can throw their arms up in the air just yet.
Ethan Sanders,
still a chance of staying.
Yeah, what's Ethan Sanders doing if the Raiders up their offer from 2 to 3? What's Ethan Sanders has just moved down there? Is he just parked in New South Wales Cup for the next 3? Yeah, that's right. That's right.
And it would mean Jamal Fogarty, if he stays at Canberra, it means he turns his back on $1 million because, Dave, the numbers I read was Manly offering a 3-year deal worth 2.1, Canberra a 2-year deal worth in total 1.1. Are those figures roughly accurate? So would it come down to $1 million decision by Jamal Fogarty if he stays in Canberra?
Yeah, look, I don't know if it's that much.
Okay.
But there's no doubt for the financial. There'll be a huge difference with the extra year, but it's a big decision. And Brandy's right. Like this is the premise of the Raiders wanting to keep Fogarty around. It's just that baton change to bring the younger halves up through first grade, the likes of Ethan Sanders, and continue to help Ethan Strange. So, and I think it's an important part of where the Raiders are at. got so many young, talented players, and to have the experienced hand of Fogarty, his kicking game, will rather, to be without him, I think it makes it more difficult.
Okay, what about another halfback, Toby Sexton? How's he looking at is he off contract at the end of the year?
Certainly is. Yeah, certainly is, Brandy. And it's a really interesting one, isn't it? Like, you rarely see the ladder-leading team with their half off contract still at this point in time. But Cameron Ciraldo, the Bulldogs coach, spoke about this at his press conference yesterday, just speaking about how happy he is and pleased he is with Sexton. But at the same time, left some room there in improvement for Sexton. Claiming that Sexton just needs to improve in a couple of areas that they've notified with the halfback in his game, which is an indication that they still want to see more from him before they want to lock him down to an extended contract.
Yep.
At the same time, certainly from their point of view, they've got Mitch Woods, very young, talented half, coming through the system as well. At the same time, there's not a great plethora of halves in that, we've just spoken about it, in that 300,000 to 400,000, 450,000, 500,000 mark.
I think the Dogs,
could put in place of Sexton.
Yeah, I think the Dogs, obviously, they're thinking, they would be thinking, can we be a premiership winning side with Toby Sexton at halfback? In such an important position, is he the man that can deliver? We haven't had many clubs or many teams over the years. I think Shane Perry for the Broncos in 2006, we didn't know much. We thought, but they had he had Darren Lockyer outside him. So that certainly helped that situation. But there hasn't been many, has there? Sevens win competitions that weren't really the general and the controller of the team. The one
Sexton's
that ran
fans, we look at the scoreboard. We're 6-0.
Matty,
scoreboard.
Yeah, I know, but still,
it will come down to the final series.
There's still question marks over. There's question marks over Toby Sexton still. And when you're in that position of still trying to lock down your number, you can't afford a bad game. Toby Sexton, if he wants a new contract at the Dogs, he can't afford a quiet game. He can't afford a game where he does, he's a 5 out of 10.
Yeah.
He needs to continue. He needs to be a 7, 8, 8.5 out of 10 at worst to get an extended deal. The jersey is still not his.
In the background to that, I agree, Brandy. In the background to that is the performances of Bailey Hayward every time he comes into the halves.
That's right.
Being without Matt Burton, Bailey's come in and done a terrific job. So, without being cruel, the Dogs know they've got a backup option should Toby decide to move on or they not offer a new deal. They do have another option that they could go with. So, Matty, I hear you. There's no doubt. Like, he can't do much more than what he's done already. But ultimately, the Dogs' greatest test will be against the biggest teams. And the likes of the Panthers and the Storm, and this Thursday night against the Broncos.
That's right.
And then September. Yep. Ultimately, they couldn't get it done in September last year. And, it might have been through an experience and ill discipline from some players, but
I don't think he's got that long. Like, I don't think Toby Sexton's got that. They won't leave this open until then. I think they'll make a decision before we get to finals, David. Like, this bloke's off contract, so they will make a decision. I think after he does play some of these big teams, and this Thursday is one of those big games, Suncorp Stadium against the Broncos. They look pretty good, even though they've been a bit scratchy. They're still one of the big teams, and people expect them to be up the top at the end of the year. So this is a big one, big test for Toby.
Can the Dogs win a premiership with Toby Sexton as halfback? Can they win the title with this spine? Tracy, Burton, Sexton, Marnie. That will be answered over the next few months.
Doctors say a proper breakfast includes eggs, bacon and breakfast with Vossy and Brandy. So get your daily fix through our socials and listen live on SEN Radio.